Hello everyone and welcome to Science in the Cinema Lecture Topic 6, Neuroscience in the Cinema. Pun intended. Now before we get into the nitty-gritty of neuroscience, I want to start off with a quick clip from a favourite movie of mine. Please enjoy.
Hey! Wait!
Will you quit it?
What?
I'm trying to swim here. What, the ocean isn't big enough for you or something like that?
Huh?
You got a problem, buddy? Huh? Do you? You want a piece of me? Yeah. Ooh, I'm scared now. What?
Wait a minute.
Stop following me, okay?
What are you talking about? You're showing me which way the boat went.
A boat? Hey, I've seen a boat. It passed by not too long ago. It went, this way. It went this way. Follow me.
Wait a minute. What is going on? You already told me which way the boat was going.
I did? Oh, no.
If this is some kind of practical joke, it's not funny. And I know funny. I'm a clownfish.
No, it's not. I know it's not. I'm so sorry. See, I suffer from short-term memory loss.
Short-term memory loss. I don't believe this.
No, it's true. I forget things almost instantly. It runs in my family. Well, I mean, at least I think it does. Where are they? Can I help you?
Something's wrong with you. Really. You're wasting my time. I have to find my son.
Well, you might be wondering what on earth Finding Nemo has to do with neuroscience. And the answer to that is, as you can see on the screen, today we're going to be learning about the area of neuroscience that is concerned with memory. Now, as I'm sure you all know, much of who we are made up of is our memory. It invariably shapes our likes, dislikes, and our experiences, and hence, memories of all these things shape our future behaviour. What I'm not sure you all know is how it is that memory actually works. In case you don't remember, we're going to start off by defining what memory is. Memory is the process of retaining and reconstructing learned knowledge and experiences, and is developed through a process of creation, storage, and retrieval, as well as, unfortunately, loss. Furthermore, there are two different types of memory: explicit or declarative memory, which is your memory of concrete information such as facts, events, people, places, and objects, and implicit or procedural memory, which is for our perceptual and our motor skills. These two types of memory use completely different areas of our brain, primarily because explicit memory requires conscious awareness and implicit memory does not. Today, in accordance with the science in this mystery film that this is all linked to, we're going to be focusing on the neuroscience of explicit memory. The beginnings of understanding the neurological basis of memory came from a very famous case study in neuroscience of one individual. The individual known as patient HM. HM had severe epilepsy and underwent a surgery to relieve this known as bilateral medial temporal lobe resection, which involved removing a portion of his temporal lobe, including parts of the hippocampus and adjacent parahippocampal gyrus. After this surgery, which did indeed relieve his epilepsy, HM was left with intact intellectual and perceptual functions. However, his declarative memory was largely impaired. It was this specific case which spurred understanding that different parts of the brain must control different types of memory, and also provided a starting point for research into exactly what area of the brain it was that was responsible for declarative memory. The key structures that support declarative memory are in the medial temporal cortex and include the hippocampus and the adjacent parahippocampal gyrus. These structures are organised so that different parts are responsible for different aspects of memory hierarchically. For example, different parts of the parahippocampal gyrus are responsible for encoding different types of memories, such as objects versus places, while the hippocampus forms associations between these different aspects. Now, the process of memory creation begins with perception, when we experience or perceive something in the world. When this occurs, electrical pulses are carried to the brain via nerve cells, which are connected with other cells at synapses, where a pulse firing triggers the release of chemical messages called neurotransmitters. All of these separate synaptic connections cause the sensations to travel to the medial temporal cortex structures that together store memory for a whole event. The hippocampus specifically combines information from medial temporal lobe cortices to organize the various stimulus attributes by identifying commonalities between events and episodes, to then link the completed memory into a specific memory space, and then, with repeated firing of synaptic connections, these memories are strengthened. Once a memory has then been consolidated, it is stored distributed throughout the cerebral cortex as groups of neurons which are primed to fire together in the same pattern that created the original experience. And each component of a memory is believed to be stored in the area of the brain that initiated it. For example, the amygdala, which is responsible for much of our emotional responses, will store the emotional aspect of the memory, while the visual cortex, which I'm sure you can work out is associated with, will store the visual aspect. So now that you have a basic understanding of the way memory works, I imagine you're probably wondering exactly which movie this all relates to. So, for this sixth and final lecture topic, I thought we'd mix it up a bit. And for those of you who can appreciate a movie which combines sci-fi with a romantic comedy kind of vibe, you're definitely in luck. The film associated with this lecture topic is Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. If you haven't heard of it, or maybe even if you have, you might be wondering, what makes this film constitute a sci-fi film? Well, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind is a film about a man, Joel, played by Jim Carrey, who undergoes a medical procedure to completely clear his memory of his ex-girlfriend Clementine, played by Kate Winslet, after finding out that she has had the procedure as well. If a procedure on your brain to completely clear your memory of someone isn't the height of neuroscience fiction, I don't know what is. Now, again, this you might be thinking is a completely crazy concept, and in most ways, it is. But there are also portrayals of the science of memory in the film which do align with neuroscientific accounts of memory, and, even more interestingly, recent research is almost indicating that procedures such as this are not completely impossible. So we'll start off by looking at some accuracy of the film. Firstly, one feature of long-term memory is that over time, the memory becomes more stable and resistant to disruption, which is why we can have memories for such a long time. However, when an old memory is reactivated, it re-enters a state of fragility and flexibility and needs to be reconsolidated in order to persist. It is in this period between reactivation and reconsolidation that a memory can be modified. This is represented accurately in the film, in that prior to undergoing the process of erasure, Joel has to bring into the lab all the objects he associated with Clementine and sit and go through all of them and relive all his memories he has with her in order for the scientist to map out his memories. This portrayal is indeed accurate in that it counts for the need to reactivate the memories in order to target the neuronal firing and capitalize on the period in which the memory is able to be modified. And, as you can see here, this is Joel sitting with all his belongings related to Clementine in some really nice garbage bags. Now, another accurate representation related to this is when they are showing the location of Joel's memories in an MRI-like scanning image, where the lighting up is occurring all over the brain, which is supported by the evidence that we spoke about before, that neurons which make up memories are not strictly held in one location. And as you can see here, this is the brain scan that was being done on Joel, depicting all the different neurons firing as they locate the memories he has of Clementine. A final accurate representation is that even after the procedure has been endured, Clementine and Joel still have a sense of familiarity towards each other. This can actually be accounted for by real evidence that there is a distinction between parts of the brain which relate to memory and recollection and parts of the brain which relate to familiarity. For example, the perineal cortex has been implicated in familiarity. So, it was correct of the film to assume that even by eradicating specific memories, a sense of familiarity could be left behind. Now, even with these rather impressive scientific accuracies that make the premise of the movie seem, arguably viable, unfortunately for those of us who have had our heart broken, it is fundamentally inaccurate. Within the film, the way the memories are erased is by putting Joel in a nice deep sleep, whipping out the map they made of all the neurons which were activated in his reactivating of memories of Clementine, and then just killing those neurons off like it's no big deal. The doctor even graciously lets Joel know that the only result of the day after, other than the loss of years of memories, will be that he feels like he has a nasty hangover. However, there is no way in which the deconstruction of neurons related to memories would do nothing but what was intended. All new memories are intertwined with our pre-existing knowledge, which is built upon, so by removing neurons related to only the selected memories, you would more than likely have more dangerous and widespread memory loss than what was intended. Other than that big, main, fundamental flaw, there are another few little things that I couldn't help but question the accuracy of. For example, can someone really sit down and recount every single memory they have of a person in order to locate it in their brain and remove it? I think not. And then there's also the fact that their MRI machine looks like something you would find in a hairdresser, not a medical laboratory. But hey, it could have been worse. So before we dive into watching the movie so you can see for yourself this interesting concept, and hopefully throughout realise that it isn't as cool as it seems, and that if it becomes possible you don't want to forget your ex, I want to talk about just that, it becoming possible. Now, I'm not backtracking on what I just said about the idea being overall impossible, but I do want to point out some interesting recent research. While there are a number of studies on both creating and erasing memories, one specific study by Han and colleagues trained rats to associate a sound with a painful shock, which then resulted in the rats exhibiting a fear response to the sound alone. They were then able to locate where exactly in the brain the memory of the pain had gone, target it, and reduce its activity by blocking the relevant synapses. As a result of this, the rat was instantly no longer afraid of the sound, as it didn't remember that the sound was associated with a painful shock. Developments such as this are ongoing, so it looks like memory can indeed be tampered with. But progressing science like this from rats to humans and really getting to the point of erasing our memories like in the film is inevitably a very, very long way away. And with all that information for you to take home, I'll now let us watch Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
I need your loving, like the sunshine. Everybody's gotta learn sometime. Everybody's gotta learn sometime.